Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The law of attraction tells us that if we focus our mind and our thoughts on something that we truly desire, and we focus it with the intention to put us in that feeling of what it's like to already have what we desire, that we will receive it. What I find interesting is that the more I look into this and the more I start studying the law of attraction and the law of assumption, the more I realize there's tons of correlation to what the Bible says about asking and receiving and what God says about asking Him and receiving from Him. And I think that's a huge element that we are missing. A lot of you that have tried to use the law of attraction and failed and wondering, well, when's all my riches gonna come? Why hasn't it happened yet? There's a certain thing that you are doing wrong. And it has to do with what God tells us in the Bible of how to execute this asking and receiving properly. So what is that, and what does God say, and what does the Bible say that you need to know about? Let's dive into it right now. So the intrigue for the law of attraction makes total sense, because today's day and age, we are always trying to figure out, how can I better my life? What is out there? What is available that I don't know about that can make my life be something that I've wanted for such a long period of time? And I've tried everything, whether it was bad drugs and bad relationships, or, I've tried a new job and I've tried a new way of living with a new regimen, but nothing seems to click. Nothing seems to happen. And the harder you end up working, thinking that is going to get you toward that abundant lifestyle, financial freedom, the more you realize you just become burned out and you're not making any more money than you thought you would in order to achieve the life that you desire. See, I think a lot of times we get so focused on what we want. That's the biggest problem. See, it's about what God's purpose is for us, what God's desire is for who we're supposed to be in order to do His will. 1 John 5:14, if we ask anything according to His will, He hears us. See, God's will is the biggest thing. It's the most important thing because He has a plan for us, whether we realize it or not. And if you're always thinking about what you want, like I want this car, I want this house, I want this, whatever it may be. If you're always thinking about you, that doesn't align with the purpose of why we even exist. And think about it this way. When you're always thinking about you, do you truly feel better when you get what you want? When you get that, let's say you get that brand new car or you get that brand new house, right? How long does that feeling last where it is something that feels like an accomplishment before you want something even better? You're always going to be chasing the better because the material thing, the thing that you desire, isn't the end outcome that makes you feel whole. And that is the biggest issue. That's why we're always chasing. We're always constantly chasing for that thing that is going to fill us, to make us happy. See, the only thing that can fill us and make us happy is God. And for those of you out there that are listening to this and already a little bit thrown off, see, it's hard to explain it unless you've actually already felt it. And that is something that I have felt in my life. I know what it's like to feel God's presence. I know what it's like to fulfill that will. And every time that I have asked for God to help me with something, there's always been help that's come along the way when I least expected it, that helped me toward what I was supposed to accomplish. So if you look at the differences between the law of attraction and what the Bible says, you can clearly see where the law of attraction, it's not a bad thing. It actually does make complete and logical sense about the law. But the power of prayer and the intention that God has on our life is where there's a mixed signal here. There's a really great story about Steph Curry, the NBA star, and the power of prayer and how it changed his entire life. As a matter of fact, without God, he would not be in the position he is right now. And that power of prayer came at the time when he was in high school. See, when he was in high school, he was being told that he was too weak, too small, too unathletic in order to actually make it. So his dream and desire of becoming an NBA star was diminishing very quickly. But he knew that he needed to turn to God. He knew that God was the only thing that was going to allow this whole situation to change and to get him on the path toward whatever it was that was God's purpose. See, Steph got to a point where he asked God. He said, God, if basketball is what I'm meant to do, open those doors. But if it's not what I'm meant to do, close them. I'll follow you. And that was a powerful prayer that Steph Curry made because he trusted God's purpose and path for his life, regardless if it was for the dream of basketball or something else. He was to remain faithful, and that is what changed everything for Steph Curry. A powerful element about this story and the power of prayer that Steph Curry shares is that he eventually got a scholarship to Davidson College. And at Davidson College, he was able to play in March Madness, where he was able to showcase his talents and abilities on a big stage, where he eventually got drafted into the NBA. Something that seemed impossible during his time at high school, because remember, he was too small, too weak, not athletic enough, but he turned to God. And it wasn't the fact that he asked God for something for him. He asked God for something that was a purpose to God's plan. Open the door if this is what I'm meant to do, but close it if I'm not, and I will follow you. I think that is so powerful. And God heard that prayer, and God honored Steph Curry's request. See, Steph Curry knew that this was not about him. The power of prayer was so strong based on God's purpose. During an interview, Steph Curry even said, he's like, I know my talent is not about me. It's about how God is going to use me to point it back to him. See, Steph Curry knew that God answered his prayer, but Steph Curry also knew that it wasn't about him. And he constantly recognizes that. As a matter of fact, he has Philippians 4:13 on his shoe. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And during interviews, he even states that he identifies the fact that this is not about him, it's about God, and how he can use his story as a testimony to point it back to God. See, when you don't focus on you and what your desires are in a selfish way, and you focus your prayer and your requests in a way to use what it is you desire to serve others, God listens to that. It's hard for God to acknowledge a selfish person when he wants us to use what it is we desire in order to serve other people that are around us. See, when I think of Steph Curry's story and the power of the prayer that he made to God, I think of John 14:13 through 14. It states, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. See, in my name basically states that to the glory of God. And Steph Curry understood that. He understood that when he initially said that prayer, God, if this is your will, open the door. And if it's not, close it, and I will still follow you. That faith, no matter what Steph Curry was meant to do, he was going to do it to the glory of God. And when he became an NBA star, he did it to the glory of God. Every opportunity he gets, he glorifies God. As a matter of fact, there was the scene during a Milwaukee Bucks game when the Milwaukee Bucks came out and they all circled up in the center of the court and did a prayer as a team. Steph Curry on the opposite team went up and joined that prayer circle. Every opportunity that Steph Curry has in order to glorify God, he does it. He kept his honor to God, and God has obviously kept his promise to the power of prayer that Steph Curry made in order to glorify him. Another verse that really comes to mind where Steph Curry obviously didn't know how this was all going to work. And a lot of times when we think about our dreams, they can be so elaborate that we don't even understand, like, how am I supposed to get from point A to point B? I want to own my own business, but I don't even know how that is supposed to happen. Well, James 1:5 states that if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So you just got to ask God, and he'll provide the path. Just got to ask God for your desire that is ultimately going to benefit and help others. And he will design the path for you, and he will provide you with the wisdom, the knowledge, and the education in order to do so. That is seen all over our society. Everything that is on this planet has come from a dream or a thought that has been created. People wanted to fly, and here we have airplanes. People wanted to drive, and now we have cars. People wanted air conditioning inside their homes, and now we have AC units. See, it all came from an idea of a creation of a thought that was manifested into an actual physical thing. See, God's got a plan for everything. You just got to ask in the glory of Him. So I hope this video helps you guys better understand the difference of the law of attraction and the Bible, but also the synchronicities that it has. And if you have been trying to use the law of attraction and you have been failing, ultimately it's because you're not asking in the right way. You're not asking God to do the will that He has and the purpose for you, and you're asking selfishly and not in the way to serve others. So guys, go ask God with faith that He will provide so you can better serve others.